Everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It is 6 o'clock, and we are going to call the City Council meeting to order the day after, on April 9th, 2024, the day after a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful eclipse day. And before we actually do our pledge and our pledge and our invocation, there's a couple people in this room I would like to have stand. We have two people here with the title chief. Would you guys stand? I think Now, there's a lot of city people that were a part of that, but you guys did an outstanding job, and we just thank you, thank you, thank you. And please pass that on to all of those that were part of your team. All right, if you will stand, we will have our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilmember Herring is going to lead us.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you for the beautiful place you let us live. Thank you for the wonderful and awe-inspiring event from yesterday. Thank you that it was safe and that those who came had a pleasant visit and then went home. Thank you for the hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours it took to plan, coordinate, and execute that event. Thank you for every city employee that was part of that. Thank you, too, for our citizens who came together to watch an amazing spectacle in the sky. Watch over our city, watch over our first responders, watch over our police and fire crew. Thank you for this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Stuart, have some announcements for us.
Actually, I just kind of have a quick review. And since you brought up the solar eclipse, I'll lead right into it.
Sorry that I stole your thunder.
No, not at all. We had quite a day yesterday. I'm sure any of y'all who were out there would say the same. I want to say on behalf of the City of Kerrville and Kerrville Parks and Recreation Department and all of our public safety personnel, we'd like to extend our sincerest gratitude to everyone who came out and celebrated the eclipse with us. It was an awesome event. We had a crowd that was absolutely fantastic. They were fun, they were good-natured, they were totally into the eclipse experience, and so that made the day even better. And I also want to thank, since we're thanking people right now, I certainly want to thank our sponsors, James Avery, Camp Verde General Store, Lennar, Hill Country Telephone, HEB, Toss It Dumpsters, the CE Group, and Ranch Radio. So be sure and say thank you to them too. As you know, NASA was there. If you want to see their official live broadcast, you can find that on YouTube, but it's about 3.5 hours long. So if you want a very condensed version, here's a couple of minutes of some of our photos from yesterday. That's it. We appreciate everybody who came out. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Good pictures. All right, our first presentation tonight is from a group called Kerrville Runs on Water. And I believe, Mauricio, where are you? Here she is. This is Mauricio Bruno. And I think she has some slides, and then we're going to have some awards.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. And thanks to the winners of a competition, which we'll tell you all about in a little bit, and their families for coming out and support. My name is Marisa Bruno. I work at the Hill Country Alliance. We're partnered with a group called the Texas Water Foundation to bring a statewide campaign called Texas Runs on Water to Kerrville. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the statewide campaign, and then we're going to talk about the project that took place about 2 months ago that resulted in a really cool utility box wrapper competition. So that's the Hill Country Alliance. We're partnered with the Texas Water Foundation, and we work across 17 counties in the Hill Country alongside local partners to preserve the land, night skies, water, and unique character of the Hill Country. And we're partnered, or the sort of impetus for this campaign has to do with what we're seeing as far as water across the state. So as I'm sure a lot of folks in this room know, Texas is growing. It's estimated that it will grow 70% in the next 50 years. I'm sure we're already seeing a lot of that growth in Kerrville. And with that increased growth means more demand for water at the same time that we're seeing a decline in our existing water supplies. And so all this adds up to a water shortage. But Texas has a plan. Every 5 years, regional water planning groups get together. They come up with a state water plan, and they decide on strategies that will help overcome any projected shortages. So we're in good hands with this plan. The things I want to highlight from this plan, there's two. The first is that most of the demand that we're talking about is coming from urban or municipal usage. And the second thing is that according to the plan and the strategies that they lay out, 45% of Texas's future water supply is going to come from conservation and reuse. And so conservation and reuse are super important. And part of that is going to happen at an individual level, things like having smarter irrigation or maybe plants that are less thirsty, but we've already made really good progress when it comes to water efficient fixtures. And so a big part of conservation and reuse is going to come from things like smart water planning, investments in infrastructure to make sure we're not losing water through leaky pipes, doing things like what Kerrville's already doing, reusing its wastewater to do things like water golf courses. So that's going to account for a lot of these water savings. And so how does this all tie into the campaign? Well, the sort of theory or change behind the campaign is that we need individuals to really value water. And it's important to inspire the everyday Texan to value water, both because of the individual contributions that individuals and households are going to make with things like water-wise landscaping, but also because what community members care about is going to have an impact on what cities like Kerrville do, what the region does, and what the state does. So it's really important to get everyone on board with valuing water. And eventually, from this inspiration will, we hope, lead to actions that also lead to water conservation. So again, statewide campaign, but the way it's implemented is very local. And so last year, we launched Texas Runs on Water in the Hill Country in Junction. We had many partners, local partners, come together to create this first mural in town that celebrated the Llano River, which is really the heart of Junction. We did a block party to celebrate it. We amplified the news of the mural on social media. We had the city and county contribute to the mural, as well as local groups through fundraising efforts. And there's more about the Junction mural in the sheet that I left for council members. So this was Junction, and we're doing it bigger in Kerrville. We've got a mural that's going to be coming to town. The reveal is going to be May 4th. That's just a sketch, like a rendering, so it's not what the mural looks like. But actually, the artist, local artist Gary Lovelace, has already started on it. It's going to be on Water Street as you're driving into town from the east side. But this is just part two. I should mention, when I keep saying we're working on this, this was very much a locally led effort in Kerrville too. So We've been working with the Upper Guadalupe River Authority. Tara Bushnell's here today with Catherine Boyette at the Kerrville Community Arts Program. Big Seeds was really involved with the competition we're about to talk about. We also got support from James Avery, and K-Pub has also been involved. So this has been really a community effort. And to kick off Texas Runs on Water in Kerrville, we had this utility box design competition, and that's who we're here to recognize tonight is the winners of that competition who are helping us really kickstart this campaign and really put forth that message of inspiring folks to value water in Kerrville. But I'm actually that's sort of the end of what I'm gonna say. Catherine Boyette, who had a really big part in this, is gonna come up and talk more about what that process looked like, and also welcome the winners up.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just wanted to congratulate all the winners and the honorable mentions that are here with us tonight. It was a very difficult process. There were over 80 applications or submissions throughout KISD. Both Tybee High School and Peterson Middle School and Notre Dame all participated. All of the artwork was featured through Big Seed at the Pint and Plow Wall. And we have our honorable mentions and our winners here with us tonight. The two selected winners' artwork will be featured, as Marissa mentioned, on K-Pub's electric utility box wraps in the coming weeks. And I wanted to highlight everyone and take a quick photo with our winners. So if the winners and maybe a family member could stand up in front of council, we'll get your names. It's Isabel Venegas, Azure Anderson, Matlin Goodwin, Darren Dang, he's not with us here tonight, and Belinda Burchell. And I also wanted to give a special thank you to all of the art teachers, Mrs. At Tybee High School and Peterson Middle School that helped this wouldn't be possible without them. We saw UGRA, Tara Bushnell and myself we saw over 400 students in several days, and we educated them about protecting the Guadalupe River, its natural resources, and how as students they can reflect their artwork in our river. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of y'all. Y'all's artwork was beautiful, and we appreciate all of it.
You guys will give us your name again and just tell us something very briefly about your picture. What was in your mind as you put this together?
I'm Azure Anderson, and I painted this picture of the ducks on the Guadalupe because I take walks down there often, and I always see them just floating around. I'm Isabel Venegas, and I wanted my painting to kind of represent walking through the park here at Kerrville and down the Guadalupe and the kind of things that you see. Madeline Goodwin, and I also kind of wanted to make it like walking through the park, but I also like to add cars for like communities.
My name's Bella Virgil, and I thought it was cool because
Because water monsters are cool.
because I don't know.
Okay, all right. Your paintings are beautiful. They're just, and I was one of the judges. We had a horrible time picking the right person, and you guys have done a wonderful, wonderful job. But there were another 74 or something.
Over 80 entries.
Yes, yes, yes. So we thank you. I love that the parks has been the center of a lot of well, all of you. And I think yesterday being down there for the festival and all the people that were in the park and got to enjoy it, it's just so much the center of our town. And the fact that you have emphasized that is wonderful. All right.
Thank you again.
Oh, okay. Can you see him okay? All right.
Thank you so much for your contributions to our community and our connection to water.
Well, and thank you, all you parents, parents and family, raise your hands. All right, wonderful. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all for the part that you've had in helping these young people do these beautiful things. It's great. If you guys will turn around and take the hand in your picture.
Yeah, can we see them?
Oh,
wow. Beautiful. Beautiful.
that's right, you guys didn't get to see them, did you?
That's amazing. Congratulations, all you.
Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
And I need to shake everybody's hand. I have not had a chance to do that yet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, anything else you guys need to add?
No, I guess just thanks on behalf of this, like I mentioned, statewide campaign. It really is just so cool to see it being rolled out in reality in Kerrville. So thank you all again, and thank you for coming. And I guess, Judy, the rest of the meeting is nothing.
You guys are free to go. Or you may leave. So, thank you again for being here.
I have a question.
We are still looking for money. Yeah, so that's the remaining amount. We have the mural funded, we can go forward, but the rest of the money we need for the house party and then the social media. So if you want to yeah, but that's just the two. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's just no stay for this.
All right, that did take care of a lot of our people. Neat things those kids are doing. All right, we have another award. And this is going to the city of Kerrville. This is, and I'm not sure, who can tell me who Gallagher is? I didn't.
That's mine.
That's Kim. You want to come up and tell us?
Well, I thought I'd do it up here, and Natalie Haskett with Gallagher is
Okay,
here.
great.
We have been contracting with Gallagher since 2012 to handle our benefits administration, so they help go out to bid for the benefits and negotiate all that. And I'd just like to introduce Natalie Haskett. We have an award that she's here to present to us. Yay.
Thank you, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here this evening. As Kim mentioned, City of Kerrville has been a long-term client of ours, and we're so pleased to be here to honor the city and all the work they have done. City of Kerrville participated in the Gallagher's 2023 U.S. Benefits Strategy and Benchmarking Survey, and was identified as an organization that excelled in implementing successful strategies for managing people and programs. They were recognized for their comprehensive framework for strategically investing in benefits, compensation, and and employee communication to support the health, financial security, and career growth of its employees at a sustainable cost structure, which is important. Designations such as this help current and potential employees understand and appreciate the organization's workplace culture and people strategy. These important differentiators, as an employee competes for talent in today's labor market, you can understand where they would be swayed to come to an organization such as the city based on some of these initiatives that you take very seriously when you're designing these benefits packages. City of Kerrville was designated in the mid-size category and was assigned points based on the relatively performance in plan horizons for benefits and compensation strategies, extent of well-being strategy, turnover rate for full-time employees, completion of workforce engagement surveys, use of HR technology strategies, and it's a level of sophistication, differences in healthcare costs over the prior year, and use of communication strategy. All of these were taken in consideration when the survey was completed, and out of all of our worldwide clientele based on mid-size, the city of Kerrville, I'm pleased to present you with the 23 designation of the best class employers. So congratulations to the city. Really nice. It really goes a long way to show that you value your employees and what you can bring them both in retention and recruitment efforts.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, let's get staff up here, and Mike, Dalton, Shelley, Michael, you guys are all a part of this.
Come on.
Chief, come on.
Come on. Guillermo? Come on.
And we need the other chief
Employees,
who's
come
hiding
on
back
up.
there in the corner.
Sneak out and say this.
Second tallest man in the room, second tallest one in the room, got to be the shortest right there in the corner.
Nobody wants to stand next to me.
Okay, great. And they're gonna have to cozy up down there, so they can do that.
Act like you like each other.
Stuart, can't you have somebody else take the picture?
I'll take a picture.
So Mayor, I would like to introduce our human resources staff. They're the backbone to the city compensation and benefits and payroll and everything else that goes along with that. This is Rebecca Priest, Mary Pierce, and Maya Johnson.
And how long have you guys been with the department?
I've been with the city 21 years next month, with the department 6 years.
Okay.
I've been with the HR department, well, I've been with the city almost 17 years, and all that time I've been in the HR department.
Been with the city 4.5 years and 2 months in human resources.
The newbie on the block, yeah. The rest of you, introduce yourselves and tell everybody what you do.
So, go down next.
Start on that end. Drew Paxton, Director of Planning and Development.
Yesenia Luna, Municipal Court Administrator.
Charby Tork, IT.
Chris McCall, Chief of Police.
Shelley McElhennon, City Secretary.
Eric Maloney, Fire Chief.
Guillermo Garcia, Executive Director. Mike Hayes, City Attorney, and I've been here 23 years, and this is the first time I've been up here to take a picture.
Thank you, Mike. I forgot to have you guys tell us how long you've been here. Yes.
Almost 7 years.
12 years. 17 years?
Yes, ma'am.
I was raised by the city of Kerrville.
Charlie started as an intern from Shriner.
Wow.
17 years next month, and beginning my 5th year as city secretary.
Chief?
3 years.
3 years.
27 years next May.
I think it's 6 years, maybe 7, I don't know. Is it 7? Me and Drew started right about the same time, that's why I'm looking at him like, whoa, wait a minute.
Did you say 27 years?
No, 20. It'll be 23 in September, I think, if I do my math right. Yeah.
I'm Michael, I work here. I'm Michael Hornis, I'm Assistant City Manager, 102. I've been here for 2 years. And I like long walks on the beach.
Actually, one walk back and forth to the park. Dalton Rice, City Manager, 6 months.
Another, not newbie, not,
Newbie.
she's newbie to the department, you're newbie to the staff. All right.
Kim Meismer, Assistant City Manager, 17 years.
Wonderful. Wonderful. There's some wonderful longevity in you guys. Thank you. All right.
There we go. Shelley, step out a little more into that, yeah. All right, 1, 2. Got it? All right, thank you.
All right. And Stuart, how long have you been here?
Almost 7 years.
7 years. All right, all right. Thank you all. Shake a hand. Shake a hand.
Shake a hand.
Well, hello. Hello, nice to meet you.
I'm Jeff. We have a
Hey.
That's right.
Hey.
How are you? 713. That's one of the ones. Thank you for everything.
Could them all exit the building.
Fair housing,
Pardon?
fair housing.
No, we're not doing that one. So.
Oh, we're not?
No,
Okay.
no, they couldn't make it tonight.
Oh, okay.
So. Tell you what, I am so, so, so proud of our city staff. I just, I can't sing their praises enough. And, not just their longevity, but this is home, and the decisions they make are just what's best for Kerrville, because it is also their home. And just a great, great, great bunch of people. We are not going to have the fair housing tonight. We will be doing that at the next meeting. So we are ready for visitors and citizens forum. I don't need to remind you that this is a time when you have the opportunity to talk, but we also are expecting everyone to be respectful, courteous, kind. In their remarks, we will ask that no names be used, and we are following the rules of the council. So we just ask you to please observe that. Shelley?
Yes, ma'am, we have 3. Danny Allman.
Good evening, council, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Danny Allman, and I live on Trailhead Drive here in Kerrville. I want to speak tonight about the Charter Review Commission's proposed changes to the city charter. I was privileged to serve on this commission. I first want to thank those council members who voted to place the commission's recommendations on the May ballot so that all the citizens of Kerrville can weigh in and make their voices heard about these changes. The charter is a document that directs how the city is to be governed, and the citizens should have the final say, not any elected official. The commission included 7 citizens selected by city council and was advised by the city attorney and the consulting attorney whose practice is working exclusively with cities on their charters. Many of the proposed changes are to simplify and clarify the charter. Others are more substantive in nature. I'd like to discuss what appears to be those proposals drawing the most negative comments. Proposal D extends the terms of all council members to 3 years. Longer terms allow council more time to become knowledgeable about the city's operations and issues, which leads to better decision-making while providing the time to work on more long-term projects before the distraction of running for re-election. The trend in Texas is to longer terms. If 3-year terms are approved, the commission proposes staggered terms for the council members. 2 council members would be elected in years 1 and 2, and the mayor would run by themselves in year 3. Staggered terms create a smoother transition of leadership and less disruption to the continuity of city government. Having the mayor's race separated from council races will allow more focus on the individuals running and less emphasis on which political group is supporting them. Proposals H and I require a 4/5 vote of council to hire or fire the city manager and city attorney. These positions are critical to the effective operation of city government, and as such, these decisions should be made with broad consensus and deliberation. Sudden changes in city leadership can disrupt the city's operations. Since 2002, all appointments to these positions have been made by at least a supermajority of council. Proposal F increases the council stipend from $25 a meeting to $250 and $500 a month for a city council member and the mayor, respectively. The proposed stipends will likely not cover fuel costs of these people attending the various meetings required by their positions. While no one wants a candidate running for city council to do it for the compensation. These changes in no way accomplishes that. Citizens could have honest differences of opinion on these proposals, and their votes will decide the issue. But for the life of me, and I'm an old accountant, I cannot understand why anyone would oppose Proposal J. Proposal J changes the date the budget must be submitted to council to the second Monday of August. This change was requested by the city's finance department to give them more time to process the property tax valuations that are not received before July the 25th. The current July 31 date placed a lot of pressure on the staff to complete the revenue calculations and update all the schedules that calculation impacts. And if you've ever read the budget, you know how long a document that is and how many schedules are involved in this. This change will not hinder council's review and approval of the budget in a timely manner. Finally, I'll ask everyone to take a few minutes and read the commission's report that is posted on the city's website. That document provides detailed discussion of the commission's proposals. Please educate yourself on the facts and vote your own conscience. And I would also recommend you go to kerrvillelead.com Community Vision, where the chairman of our commission, Greg Richards, has posted a great article detailing our deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George Brady.
George Brody, 1616 Glen Road. So this is kind of a continuation of the last meeting, just kind of rehash a little bit, and then actually dovetail into a little bit of what he just said. I said he, not his name, just so everybody paid attention to that. So to the ones that are running and to anybody else that's out here that's running, currently we're on a trend that is pretty steep financially. The government spending, like say over the last 4 years, up 31%. I'll take my calls later. Property tax revenue is up 39%. And one I didn't disclose last time, but you can look it up in the city's budget. The debt service being paid annually is up 153% over 4 years. That's right, 1.5 times what we paid 4 years ago for debt service. That's what we're paying this year. All with a population that is essentially flat. Again, the numbers I'm using for that come from your own budget. So if it's wrong, then the budget's wrong. The question is, how is this council or any future council going to control this, sustain this, and whatnot? I can tell you one way they're not going to do it is by doing something we're doing later in this meeting, which is taking a one-time revenue boost and applying it to an ongoing maintenance operation, essentially the cost of living increase that we're going to give. I assume we're going to give it to them. Nothing against staff, but you shouldn't use one-time revenue sources to supply your ongoing expenses. As far as the dovetailing into what he was saying, with these numbers in mind, the one reason to continue to have a 2-year term is the more frequent accountability to the citizens that you're serving. And it seems to be good enough, trends aside, it seems to be good enough for the House of Congress to have 2-year terms. It doesn't seem to affect anything. I mean, they seem to be running fine with that. But really my issue with that one is just the accountability. I mean, it's not like you guys are running the government, you're setting policy. So there's not a real big problem with changing you all. Changing city managers would be a bigger thing. So I'm just saying that. But the main reason I'm up here, like I say, is just I'm listening. I'm waiting to hear, and I haven't heard anything on how you guys are going to sustain this financial trend that's kind of dangerous. Thanks.
Thank you.
Lynn Andrew.
Everybody else got 4 minutes.
Right.
I only get 3?
No, you get 4.
I'm Glenn Andrew. I live in Kerrville, Texas at 3553 La Cumbrie. I'm going to entitle this, since I have a couple of more seconds. This is a thank you tour, the beginning of a thank you tour for our mayor. Thank you, council, for allowing me to say thanks for the contribution of Mayor and Council Member Judy Eichner. First, I must say an enormous thanks to all and every person involved in making the eclipse such a success. No incidences, no issues. Thanks City Council, City staff, fire, police, EMS, and parks for making the moment when Kerrville was the focus of the nation happen with no issues. I got texts from people, my friends all over the United States, about seeing Kerrville. Back to the original. Of course, it takes a majority to achieve success, but it also takes a leader. So I acknowledge that the majority of the council, particular places 2, 3, and 4, plus the mayor, are all contributors. But tonight, Mayor Eichner's term winds down in the next few days, and I want to say thanks. Mayor Eichner, in her 6 years as an elected official of Kerrville, has incredible history of doing what's best for Kerrville. Foremost, thanks, Judy, Mayor, for always leading with unquestioned integrity, honesty, and servant's heart and soul. The passage of the Citizen Developed 2050 plan has established Kerrville's way forward. Mayor Eichner was and continues to be a passionate advocate for this document and implementation of this document. To move Kerrville forward, Mayor Eichner has led the approval of difficult budgets, yet Kerrville remains an extremely high credit rating established by professionals who know and understand city budgets, unlike many others. And during her tenure, the public safety complex was voter approved and dirt's a moving. New businesses such as Kildare and Mega Creek moved to Kerrville. Workforce housing is being addressed with a plan which will add tax dollars to our coffers and affords affordable housing for our working citizens, including our educators and our health professionals. Passage of the ordinance, which precluded the obnoxious door knocking between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., is appreciated by many of our citizens. I must say a word of appreciation to Place One council member for placing this item on the agenda after he received numerous requests from citizens concerning it. Thanks Jeff, Joe, Brenda, and Mayor for the 4-to-1 approval. Quality of life is being enhanced by updating the Callow Theater air conditioning unit, renovating Shriner Golf Course, adding City Park at Nimitz Lake, and total renovation of the swimming pool, all to be accomplished without adding 1 penny to our city tax rate. Infrastructure of streets, water, drainage, and wastewater have been dramatically improved while I've been mayor and on the council. New streets, better drainage, and new lift stations. Mayor Judy and the first dude, George, served this community in so many ways. Their fingerprints are on everything that's good about Kerrville. So thanks, 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 as my old grandpa would say. Y'all done a lot of good around here. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, as a statement of fact, I want to add that I did not add the ordinance for solicitations and canvassers that made it a violation of law onto the agenda. I did not add that. It was presented by staff.
That's all of our speakers?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, council, we are ready for the consent agenda. We have 2 items plus minutes. Is there anything that anyone needs to pull? With that, with not hearing anything, I will make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much. We are ready for 5A. Shelley, if you will read that in, please.
Ordinance number 2024-06, second reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 60 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, which adopted zoning regulations, use districts, and a zoning map in accordance with the city's comprehensive plan, such chapter more commonly known as the city zoning code, by changing the zoning and classification of the property consisting of an approximate 86.71 acre tract out of the W.T. Crook Survey Number 71 Abstract number 114, Kerr County, Texas, and more commonly known as 300 Peterson Farm Road. From being a planned development district established by ordinance number 2010-03 to an industrial and manufacturing zoning district, IM, providing a cumulative clause, providing for severability, providing the effective date, ordering publication, and providing other matters relating to the subject. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right, Drew, do you have anything to add to this?
Ma'am.
All right. Council, are we ready for a vote?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I move we adopt ordinance number 2024-06 on second reading.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Opposed? Councilmember Garcia is opposed. Thank you. 5B.
Ordinance number 2024-07, second reading. An ordinance amending the City of Kerrville fee schedule by adopting a revised fee to be charged for each solicitation permit. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right. And Guillermo, anything you want to share with us?
No, ma'am.
All right. Are we ready for a vote on this one, council?
Yes.
It is our second reading. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Madam Mayor, to approve ordinance number 2024-07 on second reading.
We have a second?
Second?
Joe Herring, thank you. And all in favor, right hand, please. We have 4 voting for, opposed. Councilmember Garcia is opposed. It passes 4-1. Thank you. 6A, Shelley?
Ordinance number 2024-10, an ordinance vacating, abandoning, and closing all right, title, and interest in a segment of public right-of-way known as Knapp Road. This segment of Knapp Road is located south of the Guadalupe River, consists of an approximate 0.744 acres, and extends across Lot 13, 902, 9 and 903 of the Landing subdivision, a subdivision within the City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, and recorded in the plat and file number 19-05337, plat records of Kerr County, Texas. Finding that said right-of-way is not required for future use as a public right-of-way, ordering recording, providing an effective date, providing other matters relating to the subject. There are 3 citizen speakers signed up, and this is a public hearing.
Yes. All right, Drew, what do you have for us?
As Ms. McClellan said, this is a request to abandon the right-of-way, excuse me, for Knapp Road, as it runs from James Road to the dead end at the adjacent property through the Landing subdivision. Here's a copy of the plat running through those 3 lots, Lot 13, Lot 902, and 903. Here's just a survey of the portion of Knapp Road being closed. There's no explicit dedication for this road, so it was surveyed as the exact actual pavement section of the road. I've got a couple videos here. And the McDonald companies flew the drone footage to provide to council so you can get a better idea of the road conditions and where the road's located.
We like this, Drew. That's nice. Thank you.
She said she likes the video. It's a nice job. And that's where the road terminates at the adjacent property. And just coming from the other side, and you can see the subdivision, the Landing, and their road system in the background as well. So the current section of Knapp Road is within the flood zone, and as the Landing subdivision was developing, the new roads that they installed are up above the flood zone as well. And of course, this last, about an acre of the property there is Granger McDonald Park, which the road goes right through the actual park as well. And here's some photos of the actual conditions of the road. This is at the intersection of James Road where it turns to Knapp Road. You can say average about 16 feet wide, which obviously is narrow for a two-lane road. I've been working with the adjacent property owner to provide an access easement, not utilizing Knapp Road, coming from Kerrview Drive. They've established these easement documents showing that easement running across the two properties, or excuse me, the two lots that it would go through. And here's a video of what that would look like. This is starting over Thompson Drive. I'm turning down Landing Lane. And heading down to Kerrview Drive to that eyebrow or cul-de-sac at the corner. And if you look closely, you can see the flags where they've marked where that easement would be located through the grass. Starting at those two stakes right there at the curb line. And then connecting to the existing portion of Knapp Road up to the property owner's gate. And a few photos. I tried to show some lines where you can see those flags running through the grass there.
So that's where you'd be extending the road?
The McDonald companies would be extending a driveway
Okay, to get,
to
Okay.
the adjacent property.
Okay.
That's correct. And coming down the hill towards the fence line, and then from existing Knapp Road, coming down that hill and continuing down the existing pavement. I don't want to go backwards and restart those videos. So there are conditions in the ordinance that you have before you. We would not release that portion of Knapp Road until those conditions are met. To provide, excuse me just one second, to provide the adjacent property with access, and then of course replat the property to show the road closure within 12 months of the filing of the ordinance. And staff recommends, additionally, as far as, I know the ordinance references value, just ballpark figure to replace that about 2,000-foot section of road to current residential street standards, be roughly drainage and reconstruction and so on, between 1.25 million to 1.5 million, be the estimate to replace it to current residential standards. So staff would recommend abandoning the right-of-way back to the current property owner so it doesn't encumber that property. Be pleased to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Okay, any questions for Drew before we open the public hearing?
Have we received any input from residents in that area, and do we know if the applicants already began working on that agreement that's in the first term.
I did speak with the adjacent property owner, just answering some questions on process to this point. And the applicant is here if you have any questions.
You have
Yep.
any before we open the public hearing?
The only question was if they've already begun that discussion of an agreement.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Have you already begun the discussion with the first condition that's put in the ordinance for us to vacate and abandon this? One of the conditions is that you have to come up with an agreement with the other private property owner.
Yes, we've, Mrs. Corey is the property owner, and she had.
Justin, would you mind?
That's Steve.
Oh, that's Steve. Oh, it is Steve, I'm sorry.
Steve Schulte with McDonald Companies. Mrs. Corey, we've been working with Ms. Corey for quite a while now through an attorney in Austin, and she retained an attorney. We talked on Friday, and I believe he is here tonight also. Mrs. Corey is also here, and we have begun the discussions on that agreement, and we appear to be on the same page, and I anticipate that agreement will be done very shortly.
Very shortly? Is there
Very shortly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Steve while he's up there? Okay. All right, at 6:52, excuse me, we will open the public hearing. Who's first?
Bonnie Johnson.
Bonnie Johnson, 1524 Knapp Road. Mrs. Corey is not the only resident being affected by this. My family property at 1524 Knapp Road was landlocked in 1963 when we purchased it. We secured a private driveway easement across the adjacent property, which is 1520, to reach Knapp Road. It was then a county road. This driveway across our neighbor's property is still honored, and we use Knapp Road frequently. After using Knapp Road for 61 years, I hate to see it go. However, if it does, and when it does, we need a comparable exit. I believe what we have been offered is a non-exclusive easement into the landing that we have to maintain. I am unaware of the quality of the surface of this road. You saw the elevation of the road. There's no way that two private residences can maintain this road. And now we have a paved city street to exit on. As far as I know, unless more agreements have taken place, we do not have a decent replacement for Knapp Road. Before you vote tonight to abandon Knapp Road, I pray you agree to guarantee the residents using Knapp Road a reasonable exit that is exclusive, paved, and maintained to city specifications. Thank you.
George Baruti.
George Baruti, 1616 Glen Road. I was unaware that the problem she was just addressing wasn't addressed years ago when we were promised that it would be. So that was news to me. The thing that I'm really asking about or bringing up is we've had this before, we being the city. When we abandon something, you know, by law, you can't just give something away except for specific reasons. And when they talk about the value being weighed against the value of bringing it up to spec, the more logical question is, how much expense have we placed on Knapp Road in the last 40 years? My guess is it's zero. So it's not costing us anything right now. So when you put a value on it, the real value you have to ask is, what is it to the person who's receiving it? And that value is placed in your packet. With the applicant's letter, it basically says, it doesn't basically say, it says that UGRA is planning to buy these two of these lots, and the sale to them is likely not to go through until this road is abandoned. That tells you that their sale is contingent upon this, which is value to them, the applicant. It's irrelevant whether it's got value to the city in its current state. What's relevant is the person buying it has to pay for the value that's in it, and they have some. So I don't know what that value is. I'm not saying it's $1 million. It's clearly not, but it's more than zero. And it's not value as a road, because that's not their intended use. It's land. It's what you're saying, 744 acres of land that's being given to somebody who's going to turn around and sell it to someone else. To do that, I'm not going to say it violates the law because I'm not a lawyer, but you can ask lawyers outside of this building, and they'll probably tell you that it's debatable, that you probably should be putting some value on it and coming to terms with that. Having said that, I also would urge you to look at what she was just talking about, because if they do or don't have access, they're just the property up slightly south. If they don't have access right now, you should make it part of the conditions that that they also have it as something beyond that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Meriden Kalam. That's the end of the speakers that signed up. However, this is a public hearing.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Mayor, I'd like to address the public comment.
Sure.
So as part of this process,
Tell us who you are.
Steve Schulte, McDonald Companies, as part of this process, we've done title runs to determine property ownership, legal rights of access. The city's done the same thing. The only property owner that has legal access to Knapp Road from that end is the Corey property. The Johnsons have been using that road for a number of years. Nobody contests that, but they do not have legal access. And if, Mr. Paxson, would you show the map, or what I'd like to show is the Johnsons' access.
Martin, can you pull the PowerPoint back up? So I can get there without starting the videos.
Over to the side where the new Johnson access is.
Just a second. Maybe. Martin, can you reset it to the beginning of the PowerPoint?
Okay, so do you have a pointer?
I don't.
Okay.
If you see on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a hammerhead at Teal Court. There's an easement from Teal Court to the Johnson property.
The Johnson property is literally right across the fence line from that hammerhead on the left side of the plat, and there's a access easement. That's how the Johnsons access their property, and have always, well, and they also have access up to Thompson Drive, straight up the, well, they did until they got into a squabble with their neighbor, which has nothing to do with us. So we've taken care of the Johnsons by giving them legal access in a form of an easement at the hammerhead, and we've taken care of Mrs. Corey, who's the only party that has a legal right to access Knapp Road at the bottom. We've taken care of her. As far as Mr. Baruti's comments, he said we haven't done anything for several years. I have a timeline that I printed out that's 5 pages long that has all the communications that we've had with our neighbors on all of these issues dating back to February of 2018. So it's not like we haven't been trying to get all of these issues resolved. Part of our agreement with the Johnsons was we were gonna give them an access easement, and we did, and we put it in at the place where he wanted it put in, and Miss Johnson. As far as the sale, and Drew did not mention this, but the reason we're not just trying to get rid of a road for grins, the road on the far right side goes right smack through the middle of Granger McDonald Park, which the city owns. And the city just passed a bond, sold bonds for improvements to that park. That road is not needed for the park and would interfere with the city's use of the park. The land, the waterfront is under contract with the Upper Guadalupe River Authority for a nature area, and that also has plans for that's where the river trail is going to go, hopefully, eventually. A road in the floodplain that is dilapidated, that serves one property owner, that now has alternative access. That's why we want that abandoned, because it interferes with the future use and enjoyment of our citizens. These are all going to be public facilities. And yes, it's legal. I'm a lawyer. UGRA has a lawyer. It's all copacetic. Thank you.
Please, would you come to the mic?
I do appreciate the easement that you gave us, and I am using that. But I also have to say, I do have legal rights to go and use Knapp Road because I have a deeded easement across 1520. I'm not saying I'm being landlocked by Knapp Road being closed. I'm just saying that I do legally have the rights to use Knapp Road.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Drew, do you have something to add?
I was just going to reiterate that the Knapp Road is not, the city does not own the road. We do not have any fee title to it, so we're not giving land. We are just releasing the right-of-way easement on top of the land that the McDonald Companies owns. And of course, the city park we do own, but the remainder of that portion, we do not own that property.
Anyone else?
I'd have a question for Drew.
Would you tell us who you are,
I'm sorry,
please?
Barbara Duell Ferguson, Dry Hollow Drive. Drew, who does own that land?
The McDonald Companies.
Okay, McDonald Companies own the
Sorry,
land.
Steve.
Steve Schulte, the waterfront lot is owned by Thompson Drive Partners, LLC, which McDonald Companies is a significant investor in. The Granger McDonald Park is owned by the city.
And the city was given the land for the park by,
By Thompson Drive Partners, at the request of the city.
or at the suggestion of McDonald Companies?
No.
Okay, we're going to look later tonight at how all this is proposed to be developed. And I would just have to say, what we're looking at is a whole series of events that is going to close down public access that a private citizen had. And everybody's doing a hands-off on who's responsible because we've got a circular event going on here. So I would just have to say that it needs to be clear that if McDonald Corporation owns that land, it is of value to them to have this park that is part of, just below the landing, be developed. Therefore, that land, that right-of-way does have value, and someone needs to get compensated for that value. Claiming that nobody owns it isn't a good answer. So I just see all kinds of problems here, and I understand the Johnsons' concern about how this has been handled. And I'd like the city council just to consider more fully what all the ramifications are here. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please come to the mic.
Susan Corey. I live at 1520 Knapp Road, which is where Knapp Road dead ends into my property. Knapp Road is the only access I have. There's been talk that I've been provided an easement and that everybody's been working together to make it a good easement and that everybody's happy right now, but that is not the case. An easement was filed for me without my knowledge and therefore without my agreement as to its location. I'm very concerned that I may not end up with an easement that is sufficient under the law and maintainable. I need some type of agreement other than verbal that that road will be maintained to certain standards for my continued use over the years. And I'd also like to say that the ordinance draft in front of you says that I use the road sporadically. I use it every time I go to my house or leave my house. And as has been pointed out, I'm not the single user of that road. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this time? All right, we will close the public hearing at 7:07. All right, council,
May I ask some questions?
please.
Ms. Johnson, when she spoke, asked for an agreement that the road or the easement would be maintained. I think Ms. Corey, correct? Corey asked for the same agreement that the easement would be maintained. Is that agreeable to the McDonald Company?
Yes.
Is that more than, is that in writing or is that just?
Go the mic again, please, Steve.
We're going to construct the easement to city standards, and I would love to make an agreement that we would maintain it, but when these properties are sold, we're not going to have control over that easement. It will be a non-exclusive easement that will be used by Mrs. Corey and by the property owners. I can't agree to maintain that easement in the future, but I will tell you that a paved easement is far superior to what she has now. You saw the condition of what she's using now. I mean, I don't anticipate there's going to be much of any maintenance, and the UGRA, the portion that goes across their property, they're going to have an interest in keeping it maintained for the quality of their property. The part that, the top part, or on this diagram, the part that comes off the public street that goes going through our townhome project, we have an interest in maintaining that because that's going to be on our property, Thompson Drive. But we have no control over what, will not have control over what UGRA does with it, but I would be shocked if the UGRA did not maintain a driveway on their own property.
Do you anticipate that the T-head would also be maintained?
Pardon me?
Do you anticipate the T-head, which gives the Johnsons access to their property?
Well, the T-head is a public street, and literally the only thing that is not a public street is a probably 10-foot stretch of pavement that Mr. and Mrs. Johnson put in.
Mrs. Johnson said that she's been driving down Knapp Road for 61 years, and I may have been driving down Knapp Road just as long as that because we would go visit her parents, the Sneeds, who live there. And Miss Corey, before you, we went to visit the Wests, who lived there. They had a swimming pool, so they were especially attractive friends, especially when it's hot in the summer. Here's my concern. Both the Johnsons and Ms. Corey have asked for one specific thing in my hearing of it, and that's maintenance of that easement. Is that something you think you can do? At least with these property owners?
Yes.
Is that something you can agree to in writing with them?
Yes.
Steve, I'm sorry.
We can work with the new owner, UGRA, to provide that.
Would that satisfy the Johnsons? You have to come to the microphone. I'm sorry.
At the mic, please.
I don't Really, is all of the easement going to be on UGRA property? Is some of it going to be in the new townhomes? Is some of it going to be beyond what UGRA is considering purchasing? I didn't know that this was really in the works.
I didn't either.
So, I think there's a lot of information that some of us know and some of us don't. I don't think we have all of the facts on the table, and I think I understand that Knapp Road is not necessarily a perfect city street. I understand that it has future value for possibly the purpose of conserving the waterfront. But all we're asking is to be certain that the exit that you provide, that's provided for us, is like a city street, because that's what we have now. It's not fair to take away a city street and give us, well, maybe an easement. If you'll notice, the area of the easement is very steep. If it's not paved, and, it won't stay there, and there will be a water retainage problem.
Mayor, what we have done, this council has done several times in the past, is say, you two groups get together before we talk about the second reading, okay? We have to read this twice. What I'm going to propose is we pass it on first reading, but say it's going to be difficult to pass on second reading unless everybody can get together. All right? And the reason I think that's important, for not only for McDonald Company, not only for UGRA, the president of your UGRA board is here, Tara is also here, the general manager of UGRA. The reason that's important is that we all get together and everybody knows what's going on, then it's an easy thing to do. But I think coming to us today without everything being nailed down in writing is a problem. So I'm going to make a motion that we adopt it on first reading with the caveat, we want everybody to come back together or nobody's going to be happy when we come back together.
And you would be willing to sit down, talk with the McDonald Company? Steve, that's something you
Yes.
guys could do also?
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2410 on first reading with the caveats as outlined.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor?
Did the other council members have an opportunity to participate in discussion before we do that?
If you would like to say
Thank you.
something.
I agree with that. I'd like to reinforce it even further though. And I think that needs to be a condition in section 5 of this ordinance that will be done and that agreement will be in writing. We have one of those in like the subsection A of that. So nothing, we can pass this on first reading, but we can't guarantee anything's gonna happen until then. And we could potentially, like you said, not pass it, deny it on second reading. But I think to reinforce it even more and to also give staff direction to amend that, to add in the language that those conditions will be met and put in writing. We have the other issue of vacating and abandoning this with the value to the McDonald's or whatever corporation it's actually going to officially go to. There's a statement made that they can't guarantee the condition of it because it's going to be part of UGRA. Well, you're selling it to them, so we understand that's why. But in the meantime, until that happens, we need some guarantees in place to do that. So I'm going to be voting against this because I agree that needs to be done, but I think it needs to be reinforced even more. And I don't agree with vacating this when they're going to receive a benefit out of it, and the city gets there's a value to it. I mean, we know it from the letter they gave us. I think the citizens need to get something back for that. So I would
Would you not
ask
be
council if they would.
Would you not be comfortable with their talking?
I'm definitely comfortable with their talking, but I want to reinforce it even further and make sure that it's guaranteed in the ordinance.
Be specific about that, please.
Right. Oh, me be specific.
Yes.
Well, put what they just said that they wanted to do and put that in writing under section 5 as a condition to the ordinance. So is that something the rest of council is amenable to, and specifically also Councilor Herring, since you made the motion?
What is your wording? I'm not quite clear on what you're wanting to have there.
Well, they want some guarantees that the easements are going to be maintained properly and that they're still going to have access from their property. That needs to be in here. I think it needs to be guaranteed.
But I feel if you put those guarantees in place, they're going to get together and talk about those.
Right.
And see what they can come up with.
Right. Which is why I want to further enforce that. Like,
Councilman Garcia wants it in writing.
right, I want it in here, just like the section A says the applicant is the only one other private property owner with access to that road. I think we just found out there's not just only one, there's more. So that needs to be changed, but I think we need something else in here that says that they will have an agreement between the parties, there are multiple parties now, not just two, that those easements and everything will be maintained, they'll still have access to it. That should be under section 5 in the ordinance.
Perhaps the parties can get together, visit, and try to come to an agreement, and then work with Drew to place it in the ordinance for our second reading. The reason that we were riding on Knapp Road in those days is there used to be a bridge, Knapp Crossing. And there's still a little stub of Knapp Road over here about by Kane's and behind Chili's. I would imagine that bridge is still down there somewhere.
Yep. Probably, right?
Anyway, we have a motion and a second.
Yes. And
That
and
everybody-
I feel like you're premature, and you're putting some things in there that they need to work out, Roman, is how I look at what you're suggesting.
And I think Drew heard what you've said. I'm pretty sure. So I have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I don't think it's premature, because they're gonna work out the details. But in the meantime, for first and second reading, I think we need some staff some direction so that they know that a majority of council wants that something in there in writing in the ordinance. Otherwise, we're gonna have to make an amendment at second reading, and we all know that that's not usually the best scenario to do those types of things.
We have a motion and a second on the floor, so we will go ahead and vote on those at this time.
All right, that's fine.
All in favor, raise your right hand. 4-1, opposed. Mr. Garcia is opposed. We will do as the motion says. It will come back as a second reading, and you guys talk.
Get together.
Pardon?
So the second reading will be, J.E.
1524 Knapp Road. We have been visiting with the McDonald's for about 4.5 years.
Well,
We're at this juncture because we visited. We had all types of agreements. You might ask Mr. Schulte, who paid for that concrete of our access when we were promised many things. None of them were delivered.
what we are,
So, what I'm asking is that you reflect what is good for the McDonald's, because they're trying to make a living and something useful for all of the citizenry. But sometimes, in the very best opportunities, something goes wrong, and various individuals do not visit. There is a homeowners association that anybody who buys that property has to honor the HOA covenant. Has anybody read that covenant? I ask you, has anybody read that HOA covenant? I happen to be involved in one in Colorado, and it is a specific covenant, and that covenant dictates the policy.
Okay, those are things, sir, that you need to have a conversation with McDonald about.
I'm just going on record, Ms. Eichner.
Thank you.
And we just saw an organization grant you people a high honor. I hope that you will continue to live up to that honor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think you just made me more glad that I voted against that then.
I would just ask that all of you, as you visit together, that everyone has an open mind, put the facts on the table, make decisions from there. Thank you. We are ready for 7A.
Ordinance number 2024-08, and ordinance amending chapter 18, animals of the Code of Ordinances, City of Kerrville, Texas, by revising and replacing said chapter in its entirety. The new chapter including regulations pertaining to the care, custody, and control of domesticated animals, seizure and impoundment under specific situations, required rabies vaccination, and enforcement and penalties. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, or in publication, providing an effective date, and providing other matters relating to the subject. We do have one citizen speaker signed up.
Hi, hi, council. This is, you've seen this ordinance before. It was given to you all in, I believe, the 22nd day of March. I don't know, in some ways, I don't know why I'm up here, because we got experts in the room, all sitting on this second row, in fact, not to mention your colleague to the north part of the dais. But I'm here and I'm happy to go through it. We went through it at your workshop a little bit. You heard from experts as to some of the whys for the ordinance. We have an ordinance on the books now, and this is a complete repeal and replacement, not unlike some of our other ordinances, which just have never been really on a full-scale review at any point since at least I've been here. We've amended it a couple times with respect to vaccination practices. But this is a full-scale review and a repeal and replacement. Again, you've heard all about the need and the history and the statistics from last time and the review process. You all started by appointing an Animal Regulations Review Committee. It was made up of 5 members. I think I could characterize all of them as experts in some particular way with respect to animal regulations and animal control and animal care, and they have all been just invaluable, speaking from a staff perspective on, kind of what needed to be updated with our ordinance, what needed to be revised, what needed to be fixed, and what are some of the things that needed to be addressed in the community. Again, you all then had a presentation in late March, with a workshop setting where they went over kind of more of the whys, certainly, than I will go over tonight. So if you look at Ordinance 2024-08, again, it completely revises Chapter 18, Animals, which is in our current Code of Ordinances. If you look at the recitals on the adopting ordinance, I tried to set out, well, not always maybe, but I do try to set out kind of the history of the existing ordinance, the existing regulations, and what has occurred to this point. That adopting ordinance then adopts Exhibit A, which is all of the new regulations. And so if those regulations, Exhibit A, are adopted, you all adopt this ordinance on second reading, we'll send that to the code, our code publisher, and that'll go in place of the current Chapter 18. The effective date will be 10 days after the second reading. So going through, and this is meant to be high level, I'm happy to get into some of this more specifically, or rely on some of the committee members here. The definitions, any regulatory ordinance needs definitions. We have drawn many of those from state law, where state law, discusses dangerous animals, for instance, we use their term. There are several chapters in the Health and Safety Code that apply to animal regulations and animal care. And again, we've borrowed as many of those definitions as we could. Animal Control Authority, let me say something about this. That is a defined term, and it's really intended to be both city employees and county employees. County employees being from the Animal Services Department. I don't see Commissioner Letts still here. In fact, I thought he came for this. I'm disappointed. I'll have to ask him why he left. But I went into this whole process thinking that the county kind of regulated animals, and we did as well, and we both did it kind of on an island with some involvement from law enforcement. That's really not the case. They all work together, and it's really this really great relationship that they've had and work on and have built upon over the years. And so I guess my point is, when I first started thinking about Animal Control Authority, I thought, how are we going to define that? Because is it going to be the county who does mostly loose animals and rabies control, or is it the city who does nuisance issues? But the way we've defined it is they're both going to be involved in that, and they both can take action under this ordinance, if you will. Enforcement, again, I just alluded to this. The county does mostly at large and loose animals, and that's part of their role as vector control, rabies control under the state law. We do mostly nuisance, and so we have a barking dog, or we have a dog in a backyard that they're not cleaning up after them. We'll get those calls. Now, occasionally there's some overlap, and so that's where these two agencies really do work well together, along with the local animal welfare organizations, to really kind of come up with a solution, which I would say 99.5% of the time doesn't involve going to court. And so it's a really good process that I think will continue. Section 18-3 of the new ordinance goes into seizure and impoundment and how that works. Section 18-13, that's the sale of animals. That's essentially what we have on the books now. In fact, state law changed in this last sessions to say if cities weren't regulating this now, we couldn't get into this sort of regulation, and so we just moved over our current sale of animal prohibitions, if you will, and they're the same. And what that is about not selling animals in the Walmart parking lot or the H-E-B parking lot, and because there's a number of health risks that I think people in the room can talk to that has occurred in some of those situations. Article 2 in this ordinance is the rabies vaccination and registration. That's on the books now in terms of registration, and certainly we have vaccination for rabies on the books now as well. One of the new requirements is microchipping, and really from what I heard from these committee meetings is that more and more communities are going to that. That's what both Animal Control uses, shelters use, Kerrville Pets Alive uses to track animals. I would say, I don't know what percentage of animals are microchipped now, but many are. I know in the last few years we've adopted dogs, and that's the first thing that the vet asked us if we wanted to do was to microchip the animals, or our dogs, I should say. Anyway, so that's a new requirement. Section 18-31, nuisances, and that's where really the city is involved in terms of code enforcement. There are some things in there about the types of restraints that you can use and the conditions of the animals and the care of the animals. 18-32 is community cats, and this is a new part of our ordinance. I think we all know what feral cats are. Wild cats. I go walking in the city a couple days a week, and I see a couple of these feral cat colonies. If you're a caregiver for one of these colonies, then that's when the feral cat actually becomes a community cat. And so The purpose of this is that hopefully with these feral cat colonies, we can get a handle on them, get them fixed, and get them cared for. Not that we'll bring them into the house or anything like that, but get them fixed and cared for, that it'll actually reduce the size of that, quote, community. And we spent a lot of time, or the committee did, a lot of time discussing that aspect. 18-34 registration fees will essentially adopt what the county adopts. And so county presumably goes through this process every year about their fees. We'll then figure out what they've done and include that within our fee schedule. Section 18-35 is you can't have over 4 dogs and cats, and that's in our current code now. There are exceptions to that, certainly if you have a litter of puppies or kittens, but that's on our current law now. Article 3, this really is borrows almost word for word from the state, dangerous dogs and inhumane treatment. I think it's important to put in our code because we want to be able to tell people, hey, look at our code with respect to these types of issues, without having to say, hey, you need to go to, I think it's in chapter 822 or 826 of the Texas Health and Safety Code. And so we have just really just borrowed it and tracked it into our ordinance. Inhumane treatment talks about tethering, and there's a state law provision on that now, what kind of tethering you can use. Fighting, of course, abandonment, animals left in vehicles, and I know this is the time of year that we start putting out public notice about that, and be mindful of your pet and an animal. And then dogs on trucks and trailers. And that's another new addition that the committee felt strongly for. Just having, if you're going to have a dog in the back of a truck or on a flatbed trailer, it's got to be secured in some way. And I've seen that. I've seen it both ways. I've seen where I've been hesitant to be up on a truck because the dog is running across the tool case in the back of the truck. This is just saying it's got to be restrained in some form or fashion. Article 4 livestock is interesting. We have some of that in our current codes. We get calls periodically about chickens, and within the last several weeks, I got calls about goats. The state has, in this last session, has basically preempted us from regulating livestock within the city limits, and that's part of that. Promotion of farm lands and kind of that movement, which is fine, right? But when the person called me about their neighbors getting goats, I said, we really can't regulate that. Now, that's true, but we were all waiting for this report that the legislature asked Texas A&M to put out on conditions of livestock and what are normal practices and not so normal practices. And so we were waiting on that because if you all can essentially make a finding, and I didn't bring the language in with me, but you all can basically make a finding that someone who has livestock in their backyard, for instance, it has created like a super nuisance, and then you have to pass a resolution. But that's really the only way we can regulate livestock after this last legislative session. So that's just something to keep in mind. We did keep the livestock provisions in there, but there's language in there that says pursuant to state law that we'll only enforce that aspect of that. So the recommendation before you tonight is to adopt the ordinance on first reading. Second reading will occur at the next meeting in April. I think we said this last time. One of the big things behind this ordinance, I think, will be education and really getting out public guidance on this. And we've had buy-in from the committee members, and I think that'll be important to do. And again, like I talked about, just the continued cooperation between the city and the county, these nonprofits that just do yeoman's work on providing value to the community, whether it's free neutering, reduced vaccination costs, things of that nature. They really go to great lengths to do that. And we've seen the rabies, in the last month with skunks and things of that nature. But we do need to have. We're a city. We're a relatively condensed community, and we need to have good enforcement of vaccinations and things of that nature, and public notice of that. So, all that said, that was, again, supposed to be kind of a high-level review of the ordinance. Happy to answer any questions, and again, if you want to lean on some of these committee members, I urge you to do so.
All right, thank you. Council, do we have any questions before we go to a public hearing?
What's going to be the penalty for, like, let's say, for example, someone doesn't microchip their dog? Like, what's the penalty for that if that's found out? And
Well, under the ordinance, it's,
because I know this, we were referencing like another section, right?
Yeah. It would be under 1.1-7 of our Code of Ordinances, which gives really the court leeway to do that. I would say that, again, it would be a violation of the ordinance if a person doesn't microchip. Now, we did go through, and this is why it's so great to have these experts here and to have Mr. Gibbons from the county to participate part of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in my recalling what he said about microchipping, he said the vast majority, no one has a problem with it. They'll go do it. They'll come back with proof of it. They have some sort of notice process with it. People don't have a real problem with it. There's some people that they think the dog's going to be too sensitive to it, and they've worked with those under those. I think the important thing is to be registered with the county. But getting back to your question, if you violate the ordinance, there's going to be some penalty somewhere between. I think the bottom we usually do in court to recover some court costs is $50 up to $2,000 for health and safety.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, at
The only,
7.
well, I'm sorry.
Go
The
ahead.
only thing I'd like to comment about that is that there will be animals that will not get microchipped, but they will be contained. And if they're contained, you don't know they don't have a microchip. This is really designed to be able to get those animals who are not contained back to their owners. And that's really what the microchipping is all about. And the other thing I want to mention is that it's about education. And let's say your animal gets repeatedly picked up and taken to the pound, and you finally get cited for loose animal, okay? You go to court. Chances are it's at the discretion of the court, but there's probably going to be at least one warning involved before a fine ever comes into play. So that's a lot of what we discussed, and there was a court member on that committee who can validate that statement.
All right, anything else, council?
Wait.
Well, let's open the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, it's not a public
Oh,
hearing.
it's not a public hearing. Oh, okay. Excuse me. So,
We do have one citizen speaker signed.
all right. Okay. Who is our citizen speaker?
George Baruti.
Okay, all right, that'll work. George Baruti, 1616 Glen Road. So, yeah, one comment about the microchipping is one of those things that people are going to have a little problem with it. But if you just explain it this way, I think if someone lets my dog out and I don't have it microchipped, then there is a high probability that the dog shows up at the pound and they don't know who owns it, and my dog ends up being put to sleep and I never know about it. If it's microchipped, then of course they find out and I find out. So to me, that's like the hugest reason to do it, but all the other reasons aside. I had a couple of specific questions about it. I didn't understand if I'm reading it right, we're just microchipping dogs only, this is a requirement, is that correct?
No,
Okay, so then in the ordinance, it just specifically lists dogs in one place and cats in another? Because I saw where it said microchipping required for all dogs.
Correct. That's correct. I didn't
Yeah.
see a section of what cats had to be
So that's a question, I guess, and I don't need to have the research, but I was asking about that. The other is, this one that kind of looks like the Old West, where, if there's, I guess it's a nuisance dog or animal, I don't know what it is, they just get removed to some place 5,000 feet outside the city limits, like we're gonna take the bad animals to the edge of town and drop them off. I'm outing my father, who's, passed away, but he used to do that. He used to relocate cats that bothered him. But anyways, that's a whole separate thing. That seemed like an odd policy. I didn't understand the benefit or, what we're trying to achieve with that. The other question was the registration fees. We're setting some fees after consulting the county. If we're actually going to be using the county as something more than just a part player in this, well, this kind of ties into my overall question. Originally, when we first, not a year ago, but years ago, when we first set up a committee that I think Ms. Carrero was on, the idea was to synchronize the codes between the county and the city, because we were utilizing the county to be our animal services. This seems to get us more divergent than convergent as far as the two codes. And I'm kind of curious why we went that route as opposed to really just making this a regional service. Animal services, I think, is a regional service, and utilizing the county as we're going to. I don't really know where the lines are going to be as far as, because I can't tell from the ordinance who's going to do what. And I know you had a county, Mr. Givens on the committee, but he's just one guy and he wasn't the court. So is there some reason that we didn't just try and move the county toward the ordinances that we were looking for and have it in one place instead of this kind of parallel codes? I don't know, am I making sense? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, let me.
Okay, so anyways, that's all I had anyway.
Thank you.
Let me go back to, we'll make sure that it's both cats and dogs for microchipping. Mr. Broody, I've been waiting on the county for 10 years. And so that's it. And really the thought was, it would be great to have alignment and have their regulations just mirror ours, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I'm not casting aspersions on the county. Mr. Givens, I think, told us that he would periodically go back and talk to, I think it was Commissioner Letts, who is in charge of their animal control services, and so they're aware of it. Like I said, I was surprised that Commissioner Letts didn't stay around. I thought that's what he was here for tonight. But we had the county attorney involved a couple times, and I'm comfortable. I think I think, from the beginning to where we were 9 meetings later, I think we're at a great place about kind of solidifying, if not improving, our relationship with the county and the way they provide services. I know they're excited about their new facility, and the way we come along them in some aspects and help and work together. I forget your second question.
5,000 feet, I think.
Oh, 5,000 feet, yeah, that's intended. That was found in a couple other cities' ordinances. The city currently has authority to go to 5,000 feet to prevent or prohibit nuisances, and so we're trying to, so if it were you and your father and you had a nuisance animal, you couldn't just give it to your father if he was just right outside the city limits. That's what we're trying to do. And so and you can't, we're not just going to go out there and abandon an animal, because that's against the ordinance. So there you go.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
My name's Jennifer. Is this on? No, I'll just say it. I can talk loud. My name's Jennifer Houghton, and I was privileged to be part of this committee. I've been working in the veterinary field in specifically for the last 16 and a half years and have been involved with various animal welfare organizations within Kerrville and San Antonio and Austin area. So to address some of the comments made, microchipping, the goal of microchipping is not to penalize anyone or force anyone to get a microchip. The goal of microchipping is to lessen the strain on the city and county resources as far as trying to find out who these animals belong to. So say the pet is not microchipped, we are able to find the owner, which most of them are not. Less than 5% of the animals that come into Kirk County Animal Services are microchipped. If only half of those people, if we went by the amount of impounded animals, if only half those people were microchipped, it would save anywhere from $140,000 to $200,000 a year in resources. That includes time to find the owner, housing the pet, trying to get the pet in with either an animal welfare organization, euthanize the animal. All of those costs are considered. The point is that we're just trying to get these animals to their owner. If the owner were to say they don't want the animal anymore or they're going to relinquish it, they still can. The point, we're just trying to help people that otherwise don't understand the value of microchipping. We've had so many animals, I hear it almost on a daily, weekly basis, of people that didn't know that their animal was at Kirk County Animal Services. They either didn't think to go there, they don't have Facebook, whatever the reason may be. Not everyone is informed. So the goal is to educate them. There are resources available right now for them to get free microchips through the county. So the point of all of it is to just be able to get those animals back to the owners faster, and if at all. A lot of them don't end up getting back there. The other issue with I understand the frustration when we have an authority like Kirk County Animal Services that is given authority in the city, and sometimes there are those, well, who's responsible? A lot of that is because we don't have a city animal control, and so those are always going to exist. Going through this doesn't solve that, but we had members of the city law enforcement and Kirk County Animal Services on this committee, and we all agreed that the point of this is for us to work better together to make sure that we are appropriately dealing with the stressful situation that the county has right now. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Question, when you come to having owners microchip, is it just lack of education? It's not really so much fear. I mean, you do it for free, so it can be done without costing anything. Is it just not understanding?
It's an education. Yeah, a lot of people think that microchipping is GPS tracking and they're somehow going to get tracked and the government's going to be in their house and all this conspiracy paranoia, which there is no technology that has that. The only GPS tracking for animals is on an actual collar. The great thing about microchipping is that most animals either don't have collars, they don't have updated tags, and so there's no knowing of who this animal belongs to other than the microchip. Again, if it is tracked to an owner and they say, well, I rehomed this dog, because we've had that before, but we at least have a trail to start on, versus now we're just kind of shooting out in the universe, hoping somebody, is on Facebook watching for us. So.
Thank you. All right, council, are we ready for a vote? Are we ready for a motion?
I would like to make the motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-08 on first reading.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Right hand, please. And it is unanimous. Thank you all very much. And Mike, thank you, and thank the committee for lots and lots and lots of work. So we appreciate it. 7B, Shelley?
Ordinance number 2024-09, an ordinance amending the city's fiscal year 2024 budget to account for increased revenue, a merger of city funds, a multi-year public works project, and a mid-year cost of living and adjustment for all city employees. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, again, twice in one day. I'll keep this pretty simple, and most of these things you're used to seeing before. So ordinance 2024-11 does require 2 readings to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget. The proposed amendment that's in front of you would amend the 24 budget in response to the following things. So general fund surplus better than budget revenues and expenses from fiscal year 23. Transfer a portion of that surplus to asset replacement in line with some of what we talked about earlier in workshop. Reallocate unspent fiscal year 2023 committed funds for the HHHC project. That's basically just to get it budgeted in 24 where it wasn't before. And then adjust the fiscal year 2024 interest revenue budget because that is coming in better than budget. And then a cost of living adjustment for employees that we will discuss a little bit here in a minute. So fiscal year 2023, after we confirmed this with the auditors, had a net change in net position of 1.7 million. That surplus funds at the end of the year, primarily due to things that you already are aware of through monthly report outs and year-end report out. So primarily due to service revenues that were better than budget, mostly related to EMS, better than budget interest revenues as we continue to talk about. The transfer in from the golf fund as we merged that back into the general fund there. So the cash and receivables that were on the books for the golf fund came back into that. And then better than budget expenses, especially on personnel due for staffing shortages, which we continue to talk about. This is just a look at the changes to the general fund specifically that are proposed. So general fund transfer out to asset replacement of $750,000 of that 1.7 million. Transfer out to development services. This is related to the COLA, which we'll talk about in a minute. Remember that the general fund and the development services fund are one and the same for financial reporting, so this is really just a balancing of the two. Increase to the interest revenue budget of $500,000, which would offset the COLA for fiscal year 24 and leave about $180,000 in revenue from that excess interest or the increase in the interest budget. And then you can see the increase to general fund salaries there. If we were to do the 4% COLA for fiscal year 24 of $271,000. And then for clarification, a little bit different than your packet. In your packet, this said benefits, so I tend to speak in terms that I'm often thinking. What that's specifically referring to is the change in the taxes and Social Security and things that would be impacted by that COLA. So it's not really benefits per se when you talk about group health and those kind of things. It's specific things that are automatically impacted when salaries go up. So in this scenario, the interest revenue that we would increase would more than offset the cost of the COLA for fiscal year 24, leaving about $180,000. And then that transfer of $750,000 of the 1.7 million would leave right at $1 million retained in fund balance in the general fund. Short look at the development service fund. Remember, this is also part of the general fund for financial reporting, but we need to balance these out. So if we increase those line items for the COLA, then we would also need to increase the transfer in to give them the revenue they needed to cover that from the general fund. Water fund, so increase in interest revenue there as well. For the same reason, we're just seeing interest is performing better than budget as we continue to talk about. So with the impact of a COLA, should we do that, we would have about $90,000 remaining in revenue above what we originally budgeted. Garage fund, really small impact for COLA. They have, I think, 5 employees over there. Is that correct, Guillermo? And so we would expect that that will probably be offset by better than budget expenses. If not, they have a healthy fund balance over there that could handle that $4,000 right there. Then this guy here is just cleanup. This is just, so, you know, the HOP fund and the Library Memorial Fund are both committed to $1 million apiece. Or, I'm sorry, Library Memorial, a little bit different because it's going to be expensed there. But this is just putting that back on the books. So it didn't happen in 23, so we need to show it in 24. And that way we will be able to allocate that if funds are needed to spend that. So that's really just a cleanup item. And that is all it consists of. But I'm happy to answer any questions about any pieces or parts of that. And you do have this all in your packet, along with the attachment that shows specific increases and transfers.
Yes. And this COLA, should that have actually been at the beginning of the year? Has it been delayed?
No, so if you remember the last few years, we've done a mid-year adjustment as we've watched revenues. So if you backed up to COVID, we didn't do increases at all there for a couple of years, and we actually had some decreases there for a year or
Right.
two. I went backed into the last 4 or 5 years there and just looked at history. Then we did in '23, or remember we did the survey. I'm sorry, Kim, I'm lost. The market survey, where we looked at comparative cities to see
That
where
was
we were. And so we
mid-year,
did some
right?
strategic adjustments. We did those mid-year along with a COLA. So we've done that the last few years, just kind of as practice, to kind of get back in line with both what the market's doing and then also inflationary factors that are being impacted. But the reason we've waited till mid-year A is we like to see audit, make sure that our numbers are confirmed by the auditors, and then also to kind of see what current year revenues are going to do, and do we have the ability to cover that additional expense that we didn't originally budget for. And that's, of course, our first order of business.
Other questions?
Does this ordinance include the Hot Library Memorial transfers?
It does. The attachment that was in the packet is essentially the journal entry that we will make on the backside to move those funds.
We're just, unused funds, we're just transferring.
Correct. They weren't budgeted in '24 because when we were closing the year at '23, we weren't sure that when we were making the budget for '24, we couldn't be assured they weren't going to be used in '23. So if part of them would have been spent in '23, then we would have moved just the piece that wasn't over. And so, it's really just a cleanup to put it on the books.
Any others?
Where are we getting the $500,000 interest revenue from?
So interest revenue investments in general, they're just performing better, yes.
I just wanted to make sure it
Correct.
wasn't the same revenue source
Yes.
that we talked about earlier.
It is. It is.
the same
So,
source?
well, it's a different source because it's a different fund. And
Mm-hmm.
so every fund is allocated their portion of the interest depending on the cash of each
Right.
fund, based on the total citywide. Now, what you're talking about is the CIP that comes from, so all of our bond revenues are invested separately and tracked separately. So this has nothing to do with the interest from the bonds. This is citywide, everyday investments that get split among funds.
Perfect. Just wanted to
That you
confirm
see in your monthly report every
Right.
month on interest revenue, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
What's our plan for a more permanent revenue source for the COLA increases that we're using because we had an, I guess, unexpected additional revenue, or it's not a permanent source? What is our plan to make sure that we can continue to
Sure.
fund that for future
So
fiscal
sustainability,
years?
of course.
Right.
I mean, it's our middle name. It's what we talk about on a daily basis. Of course, that'll be part of the budget process and talks about what else we do or don't do moving forward as we look into the '25 budget. We have our forecast that we work through all the time. This interest revenue, yes, it's I guess if you want to call it extra, it's not a one-time, I would say, because we do have interest revenue every year. It's just above what we expected. So if you back up a few years, we were in the same situation with sales tax. We increased that. Last year, we were in the same situation with EMS revenues. We increased that. So I think when you're conservative, when you budget going forward with revenues, that hopefully you're better than, instead of me having to say we're worse than overall. And so I think, using conservative approach that we've continued to use, talking through the budget, with council and kind of designating those priorities to what we're going to do moving forward. Of course, we're always watching inflation, seeing what's happening there. We're seeing some leveling, but, it's too early to have a crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen in 2 years. But this has become something we're pretty careful with, and we watch it really close. So I can't forecast and tell
Right.
you exactly, but it would be no different than any other increase in a budget.
I agree with you in that way, but that would be looking at best case scenario. But we can't always guarantee that additional revenue is going to be there every single year. And so it appears that that's probably what we're doing, is looking at what additional revenue do we have to fund the COLA increases that we want, rather than, if we know we're going to give a mid-year increase, plan for that through the budget process.
You
Right.
could plan for that during the budget process, but now you're also looking at where's that going to come then? So, we're sometimes, yes, we're forecasting, but you have to look at what's in front of you as well. We can forecast certain things, again, using a conservative approach. So if we budgeted all of that, then we'd be cutting somewhere else. And so if I came and said, I wouldn't be coming to you if we didn't have excess revenue. This just wouldn't happen, if that makes sense. And
Mayor,
so,
council also,
yeah.
real quick, kind of touching on that, we're kind of splitting up two things. We did run some benchmark cities. I think we looked at about 11, give or take. About 3 or 4 of them we're doing kind of mid-year. Some would do one in the beginning, October 1, and then some would do one about this time, right at the 13 pay period mark. There are other cities that'll do a COLA and a merit all at one time, right on October 1. And so we kind of just took the history of this, on it. And I think really the goal of this was to kind of focus on the team. We know that there's going to be a lot of challenging decisions that we have to make, regarding some of the sustainability, the services, and everything else. But again, the core of it was saying, here's the team that we have now. Currently we have the services that we are provided. We know we have to start asking some very, difficult questions for sustainability and what that looks like of our services and amenities. And I can absolutely tell you that we are going to be looking for those things for making sure that we have sustainable revenue, have the services that we, that council, sets for us and wants to provide. And should we need to kind of pivot around budget time, we absolutely will. But we just want to make sure that we focused on our team on this one, the team that we currently have.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're planning for this. I mean, it's something we
Yes,
most
sir,
likely
absolutely.
could expect we're going to do in a mid-year if it's, a practice that we've done. I mean, and most businesses do that. But what we're doing right now, and I just want to be careful about how we're taking this approach, because you start setting a practice of how you're going to, and a habit of how you're going to be doing these. What we're doing right now is we're relying on this extra revenue to determine, can we give a COLA increase? And if so, what percentage is that going to look like based on the revenue that we've received that's unallocated? Rather than saying, we know we want to give a 4% COLA increase, let's make sure to budget for that. And that may come at a cost in some other areas, but that's a better scenario than saying we can't give a COLA increase to our wonderful employees this year because we didn't budget for it and we didn't get the revenue sources the unexpected and unallocated revenue that we luckily got this year, but it's not a guarantee for future years.
No, absolutely. Nothing's a guarantee, in this business, and there are often times we do have to make some, some challenging, decisions as far as services and everything. And as we kind of go into strategic planning, we're going to be able to hash a lot of those, things out. We'll really be able to kind of figure out, again, how do we make sure that it is sustainable and focus on the team that we have versus some of the future stuff that we may not need right away, but we can adjust accordingly. Perfect work. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll let you finish, but I just want to ask one more question before
Yes,
my
sir.
time's
Yeah,
running out, so you can answer it. And this will be it, Mayor. If you can touch on this, because you and I spoke on this individually, can you talk about what our plans are or what staff is thinking about for using merit increases throughout the budget instead of always having to rely on potentially the COLA increases to be such a significant percentage? Not saying that this is, but we were talking about later down in the future, making sure that we work through that budget process for the COLA increases and on those regular salaries on merit.
No, absolutely. I'll be quick on that as well, Mayor. Some of the things that we're looking at is there's a lot of different tools and techniques that we can use. We talk about compression a lot, which compression is the gap in pay between positions. There's a lot of different things that we can kind of adjust and figure out what is the right answer. We did a compensation analysis about 1.5 years ago or so, and so those we try to keep those. They're good on keeping everything relatively balanced, so we try not to have the roller coaster of everything in there. So I don't want to say specifics on it. Some of the things that we do talk about as far as, they all have some type of impact on either services or personnel or operations. I know Julie and her team and all the directors and everybody are working diligently on saying, okay, where are we now as far as the services that we're providing based off of, our current COLAs, current operations? And then, hey, come budget, where are those things that we need to adjust? And as we work with, council members and mayor on what that vision and guidance, is, we can then kind of pivot on some of that priority-based budgeting and how we can make decisions of personnel based off of the 2050 plan and city council's vision and strategic planning.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, you have not, anything you'd like to weigh in on?
No, ma'am.
You're good? Joe? Brenda?
Good.
Okay. Do we have a motion for 7B?
I move we adopt ordinance number 2024-09 on first reading.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, right hand, please. And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julie.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
appreciate all your work. 8A.
Resolution number 11-2024, resolution authorized by section 418 108B of the Texas Government Code extending the mayor's declaration of disaster regarding the eclipse event issued on April 4th, 2024. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
Mayor, Council, this will be very quick. Really just kind of talk about why this is on here, what this means. Working with the team and the Eclipse team, this was just an opportunity. Should something have escalated, the mayor signed the disaster declaration. Again, I don't like to say it, but more of an administrative capacity based off of, in line with the county and some of the other operations that we were anticipating at the time. Every 7 days that has to be renewed, but the mayor cannot do it independently. It has to be done by a majority of council. We do not recommend extending the disaster declaration, which means that if y'all choose not to do it, it expires today, correct?
No, Thursday.
Thursday. All right. It expires Thursday.
7 days.
So.
Okay. Council, any reason to renew?
Nope.
And I think that's a big thank you to all of our emergency personnel, our safety personnel, our city staff. Thank you, thank you. All right, we will move on. 8B.
Resolution number 10-2024, a resolution authorizing the city's continued membership in the Atmos Cities Steering Committee, ACSC, and authorizing the city's payment of 5 cents per capita to the Atmos Cities Steering Committee to fund regulatory and related activities related to Atmos Energy Corporation. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right.
Council, this is just a routine resolution based on our longstanding membership in the Atmos Cities Steering Committee. The city is represented by this group, this committee, along with approximately 185 other Texas cities. What they really do is help us with the rate cases that Atmos files and then monitoring legislation that may have an impact on gas services or gas utility rates and other issues like that. The committee hires consultants, financial consultants, attorneys to look at the rate filings. Without that, we would essentially be on our own, and it's certainly beyond what I could do, and so we would have to certainly hire an attorney to help us with that. Just so happens that Atmos filed their proposed rate increase last week, and so you'll be getting some information in the next few weeks about that. But what that does is it triggers this committee to get up to speed, reviewing the evidence that Atmos uses to justify their rate increase. And every time, I can't think of a year where it didn't happen, the committee goes back to Atmos and says, we don't think this is legitimate, or we don't think this is, you have enough evidence here, and they actually reduce the rate, the proposed rate increase. So I think for approximately $1,200 is what we pay per year for this committee. I think it's worth every penny, and I recommend you all approve this resolution.
All right, any questions, council? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution number 10-2024.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, right hand. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are ready for 8C.
Update regarding city's discussions with Headwater Groundwater Conservation District. We do not have any citizen speakers signed up.
All right, Stuart, there you are.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll start out with some really good news. It's raining outside right now, so it's actually very happy to see that. The rest of the news that I have here, at least I'm going to give you a little update. I'll tell you about Headwaters too, and let me give you just a little update about the river and where we're at right now. So the river's off pace, kind of like it was all last year. We haven't really caught up on our rainfall for over the winter time, and this month looks like we're probably, I say we haven't caught up. We're pretty well on schedule with the rainfall. It's just hadn't cleared the delta that we've been off the last few years. So we are watching the river flow. It's lower than it usually is this time of year, but that is what it is. So now for the Headwaters update. So this is about the midway point. You'll remember back in February, actually about February the 14th is when y'all signed the previous agreement with them, and that gave us 4 months to work with Headwaters. We've given them, talked to them a couple different times. along this process, checking in, seeing how they're coming along. We made them a proposal that was vetted through council on February the 22nd, and checked in again with them in March the 25th. Since the 25th, they've been able to have a meeting with their Rules Committee, but the Rules Committee has not been able to report back to their board until tomorrow's board meeting. And so hopefully tomorrow we'll have some news from them, but as it stands right now, we are about halfway through that 4-month window that the agreement gave us, so we want to give you an update and just tell you what we've done since then and where we're at. So with that, I'll have to answer any questions.
All right. Questions, council?
Does it seem like the proposals that we've submitted and at least the Rules Committee has reviewed are going to be amenable and acceptable to Headwaters? I mean, I know we've had some communication, the city has not, the city has had some communication with them throughout this process. So just wondering if we've received any feedback from them yet.
We've sent a few emails. I'm just checking on the status and see that it was over spring break, and there were some other things that they couldn't get together and have their meeting. But they did have a meeting. I'm not sure the exact. Those are not public meetings. It's obviously they're private. I did offer to attend if they wanted a city representative there, but they did not extend that invitation. And so I know I have nothing to report as to what their findings were or what's going to be reported to the board tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we are ready then for 8D. Joanne, reading there?
Memorandum of Understanding with Guadalupe River Center, Inc. And we do have 7 citizen speakers signed up.
Good.
All right, Mayor, Council, be relatively quick on this one, at least from, simplicity standpoint. As y'all are aware and recall, EIC did the bond, $20 million bond, quality of life, the GRC River Center, which I'm going to focus more on the Granger McDonald Park. And so even though they are symbiotic, from a public-private perspective, we want to focus on the Granger McDonald Park piece. This MOU focuses on both the collaboration and the public-private partnership kind of between the Guadalupe River Center and the Granger McDonald Park piece on it. And really what I want to highlight is, of course, with city staff and the team, and what we're kind of doing is, now that everything is kind of done from the bond, the politics, and all of that, our job is to get this park, in the best opportunity that we can to serve our residents of this community. The things that we've kind of heard with this has been access to the, appropriate access to the river, making sure that we, have, some sporting stuff and some other events that we can do, which is going to be more on the GRC piece. So that's where the collaboration comes in. And how we get there, this MOU really just the goal of it is to simplify that process. Understand the duties and responsibilities that are separate from what the Guadalupe River Center is doing and to where the city and our city team is from the engineering design and how we want to have that productive collaboration with it. I know that just from conversations, with the GRC team and their board, they are looking at raising funding. That's above our pay grade. We're focusing on the park, but this MOU really just kind of highlights the understanding and again, the good faith collaborative efforts that we can work together on to accomplish a shared unified vision that's going to be able to support our community. So that's really what this kind of focuses on and what those next steps are.
All right. Any questions or comments before we have our speakers, council? All right. Who's first, Shirley?
Zane Guerrero.
7 speakers. I'll be very quick. As he said, it's a shared vision of the lake and access to the lake. And so right now we have Shriner Park, Flat Rock. We have access there. It's busy in the summer. And then we have Louise Hayes Park. It's got good access and it's busy. And now it's time to focus on Nimitz Lake and provide the access. And so what this document does is it lays out some of the cornerstones that we need to have so that people can get into the water, whether they're handicapped, disabled, whether it's kids, using the piers to get into their boats, things like that. So you kind of think of the Granger McDonald Park kind of like a port. It's like I'm from Houston. We have the Port of Houston, which is a great thing. It has the cranes, it has the piers, it has everything that the boats need to do what they got to do. And that's what this agreement means. It's everything that we think it's in the 2050 plan. It's everything that's going to help us do the activities that we've identified that we can bring to ignite the activities in the lake. And it's everything that's going to be beneficial to the community, because Nimitz Lake is the citizens' lake. That's the city of Kerrville that owns that lake. So this is really just an opportunity to start collaborating with the city so that we can have a beneficial public-private partnership.
Thank you.
Barbara Jewel Ferguson.
Can we ask everybody to keep their remarks to 3 minutes since we have so many?
Barbara Dole Ferguson, Dry Hollow Drive. I think it's interesting to remember where this started, this project. It was a request, and I was in the city council meeting when the request was made, just to have a statement of support for a private undertaking. And it was stated at that time, council member place one said, made a question as to what else are you asking for? And the response was nothing, nothing else, no cash, no nothing. Well, here we are today, and now we're looking at an agreement. And, but in the midst of that, before we got here, there was also a request saying, what are we going to do about, how are we going to handle the cost of maintenance for this park when we're having trouble with the existing parks we have and maintenance there? And so it was suggested, it was actually asked of a Guadalupe River Center board member, would you be willing to take on the maintenance for this park? And the response was yes, yes, we would. Well, today, as we take a look at this, it says the parties will discuss a possible park operation and maintenance agreement for the future operation and maintenance of the improvements described above, which will be the responsibility of nonprofit organization. But this is a discussion of a possible happening. I'm very concerned that we will be, in a very short period of time, one more step down the road, and the city will end up having a maintenance issue with a park. And anytime you have waterfront projects, the maintenance is significant. These are not inexpensive things to take care of. I'm also concerned about the Guadalupe River itself. Protecting the riparian zone along the river and this boardwalk is going to destroy a good part of that. And also, our current Guadalupe River flow is a third of what it normally is this time of year. A third. And we're headed into summer. I'm really glad it's raining outside too, but it's going to take a whole lot more than that rain to bring us back to where we need to be. And if we are investing in a public-private partnership that involves the river and involves the maintenance involved with docks and everything, I think this needs a lot of real careful consideration, needs to be tightened up to make sure it is certain that the nonprofit is going to take care of the maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry, real quick, Mayor Council, on, on that, with the like memorandum of understanding, we didn't want to go down the contractor agreement route. This is really kind of a good faith understanding of what both parties are kind of playing in this. One of the things and one of the directions that we kind of pivoted on with this was initially we were like, hey, let's put this into the hands of GRC. And after discussion and some of the discussions with GRC and kind of working together, we felt that it was in the best interest of the city from the liability standpoint to take on the design, construction, and everything, and bring them in as some collaborators to again get the vision of the GRC with that. We understand there's a lot of things that we got to figure out. All we can do from the city side is really do what we were kind of tasked with, from the bond and everything else to make sure that we can do everything that we possibly can. The goal is to eventually get a POMA to turn that over. But again, that's going to take some time, and this MOU really just sets the foundation and the framework of good faith for both parties.
Peter Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Peter Lewis, 240 Galbraith Avenue. I stand before you tonight here to speak in support of the proposed memorandum of understanding between the City of Kerrville, Texas, and the Upper Guadalupe River Center, Inc. I believe the Guadalupe River Center will be a transformative force in Kerrville's future, providing, among other benefits, ease of public access and purposed instructional and recreational activities on Nimitz Lake, both of which have been lacking for far too long. Now, I wish to be clear, I do not have an economic interest in the River Center other than my abiding belief in the value that it will bring to the local economy, especially for businesses and other landowners along both sides of the lake. As the token architect on the GRC board, I will work closely with the design team during design and development of the River Center to ensure that the end product exemplifies the very best of Kerrville and Kerr County and the things we hold close to our hearts. I do, however, have an ecological interest in the project. The City of Kerrville's water treatment plant is just downstream of this site. It is imperative that this and all development along the river ensure that the stormwater passing through these properties be the cleanest water possible by the time it enters the lake, protecting the city's drinking water for now and for all future generations. To that end, the design and construction of the River Center and the Granger McDonald Park and the river's edge will model best management practices for filtration and management of the flow of stormwater runoff before it enters the river. These practices will include, but not necessarily be limited to collecting and storing rainwater from the roofs of the proposed structures for use in landscape irrigation, incorporating landscaping that is designed to absorb, filter, and slow water runoff. And examples of this approach include rainwater gardens and the use of native plant materials and biofiltration strips within the parking areas and between those areas and the river. And finally, use of permeable materials and systems for parking areas where feasible, examples of which include pervious pavement and interlocking pavers. With these practices in place, the interpretive resources to describe them, and the obvious benefits that they offer, the River Center will be a living classroom for children of all ages. I close with a quote from Ansel Adams, the American landscape photographer best known for his black and white photographs of the American West. Let us have a splendid legacy for our children. Let us turn to them and say, this you inherit, and guard it well, for it is far more precious than money. And once it is destroyed, nature's beauty cannot be repurchased at any price. Thank you for listening, for loving our river, and I hope for passing and approving this MOU tonight.
Thank you.
Peggy McKay. Peggy McKay, Kerrville. Barbara actually had a lot of what I wanted to say about the beginning, from nothing required from the city except support to now we have a $2.2 million bond. And I do fear that this will become another request after another, after another, after another. The agreement to me is very vague. It doesn't spell out who has the responsibility for exact maintenance, and I noticed the UGRC specifies a couple of times only on Lot 8. The project sounds like it would be a beautiful project. The money is what I'm concerned about and what it will take for the taxpayers. Also, I don't understand why the $2.2 million and how it would be spent included future extension of the river trail, because that's in the future. And I think it's too far to say one thing that it would be forthcoming would be one thing, but to include it now under the 2.2 million expenditures, I think is premature. Also, when we're talking about some of these recreational activities, I assume there will be fees. Is this going to be divided among the stakeholders? Will the taxpayer get any return on it? And also the improvements. Who will be responsible for the improvements once they're done? I would like to see the basic phase 1 done, and then when we have that as a proven entity, maybe have that as Exhibit A. Exhibit B for the future, should the group need some type of presentation for fundraising. It wouldn't take away anything, but it would let us concentrate on the first part. Like we saw with the Knapp Road, it's a mess. And if we have more concise data to present, I think it'll cause us less problems down the road. I too am concerned about the water. Headwaters says we're in for more drought. And with more building coming on stream, I'm fearful of the water use that we have, and also the water levels down, which is one of the things that encouraged this type of development, was access in and out of the river. If the river goes down, so does the access. Will we be building here, and the access is even lower still? So one thing at a time, let us be really clear.
Thank you.
Celeste Hammond.
Hi, Celeste Hammond. I live in Kerrville, and I'm here to support the MOU because I'm really excited about the collaboration that's happened between the GRC and the city. And I find it exciting that we are working together towards, both of us, with the goal of having a really significantly wonderful and unique park, and that the MOU actually underscores the amount of trust that is happening between the city and the UGRC. The second thing I like about the MOU is that it is really rooted in the Kerrville 2050 plan, and I'm most concerned about the programs. I'm the program chair. And what I want to call attention to is two items out of the 2050 plan that the citizens of Kerrville prevailed upon the city to promote the Guadalupe River and to build recreational facilities on the river, and to have all sorts of programs like family outings, athletics, and promote an active living. And then another thing is the citizens wanted to make sure that the programs were for all people, all level and all ages and all abilities. And that is the kind of program that we're going to be doing. And the list of infrastructure that is on the MOU are the bones that are going to be the foundation of the programs that will be coming out of the GRC. We have to have that infrastructure in order for those kinds of programs that satisfy the 2050 plan can come out of the Granger McDonald Park. When I am thinking about what is the quintessential image of living an active, healthy lifestyle, which is one of the goals of the Parks Department, their motto is get outdoors, be active, and play. I think about sailing. And sailing would be a very unique experience for people in Kerrville. We haven't had sailing programs here before, and that will be the core of the programs that will be coming out of the GRC. And the sailing that we will be offering has a lot to do with for youth. So there will be summer sailing camps. There will be families learn to sail together kinds of weekend workshops that can happen throughout the whole year, even included in the cooler months, the December, January, and February months. We'll have club sports, sailing clubs out of Schreiner University, and then, of course, we'll also hope to set up a Sea Scout ship, which is sort of like a Boy Scout troop, but it happens through sailing, and that appeals to the 13 to 21-year-olds. That's the group that they serve. And so we're really excited about that. And I just want to mention one other thing about the access is the ramps make a difference. All the other parks, nobody has a ramp that allows you to get in, and you cannot swim effectively. I'm an open water swimmer, and it's the oversized ramp that's going to be a really important part of that infrastructure as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
John Anderson.
John Anderson. I reside at 2729 Indian Wells. I'm here tonight to ask for your support for the MOU. I'm chairman of the Upper Guadalupe River Authority Foundation. I would like to draw your attention to a couple aspects of the MOU. It memorializes discussions and, if you will, draft agreement that I and our board members have had with Manager Rice and his senior people, where we are looking for a collaboration to work together to define a path forward to develop the Granger McDonald Park as well as what we refer to Phase 1 in the River Center development, which essentially would be the building and equipment that is on the lot abutting Granger McDonald Park on higher ground, most of it above the floodplain. The project is, as we are looking at it together, and I think it's important that the memorandum has us working together, collaborating, not just on Granger McDonald Park, but on our Phase 1, or our Phase 2, I'm sorry. And the reason that's so important is that to make all this happen, it has to be synergistic. Very narrowly and specifically, if you do Granger McDonald Park, and we don't have the River Center above it, providing the programs and so forth, none of the things that are listed in the MOU, which are through-line suggestions or recommendations from the Kerrville 2050 plan, none of those are going to be realized or actualized until the programs and activities from the River Center, its building and its organization, can be delivered to the lake and the water. So from that perspective, the park itself is sort of a bridge and we will go from that bridge, we will take people and programs across the bridge, the park, to the water to deliver. And at that point, the benefits that are projected will be available to the whole community. I think that in terms of return on investment for the city, when you put this package together, totally right now with the dollars we're looking at about $5 million, 2.2 from the city, and the remainder from our private investors, and we have a significant portion of our side of it already committed. So I'm suggesting that there's some real leverage there that the city gets for essentially a public investment. And when we can deliver the programs we want to the residents of this city on the water, in the lake, you're going to have essentially a multi-purpose community center offering a wide variety of programs, recreational, sporting, educational, not available anywhere in Kerrville or this community at this time. In terms of the concerns expressed earlier, all I would suggest is that I and our board have the highest regard for Manager Rice and his team. They understand what the issues and questions are. My board of directors, and you know who most of them are, I mean, it's a very, very significant board of leaders, have the same questions. I think you should have confidence that working together, we'll work our way through what the issues and the questions are, and in a matter of a couple of years, we deliver a significant value and benefit to this community. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bill Rector?
Honorable Mayor and Council, I promise to keep this very brief. I'm here tonight as a taxpayer, and we're looking at a public-private project, and those save taxpayer dollars. We're seeing private citizens putting into action and into place things which would ordinarily be paid for by the citizens with tax money. This is good for Kerrville, but this is a marriage between the city and between private interest. And those of you who have had experience with marriage know that it only works when there's respect for each other and when you are working toward a common goal. And I see that in this project, and I think the council can make this work, working with city staff, working with these private individuals. This is going to be a game changer for Kerrville, and I ask you to consider approving this memorandum of understanding tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of the citizen speakers.
All right, thank you. All right, council, any comments that anyone would like to make before we vote on this?
I have a couple of comments and questions. I was wondering if someone from the corporation can tell us how much y'all have at least raised so far in private funding for this project? Y'all have a number, like just rough estimate. I'm not asking for anything exact.
I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, so you're asking.
We have pledges and we have commitments, and we're significantly there. So just.
And how much are you
tuned.
estimating? What's your goal?
Our goal is 2.8 million.
Okay, thank you. So you're asked city to incur debt to support this project. The memorandum of understanding requires that the corporation raise private funds for it, but you don't want to talk to us about that. I find that interesting. I'm wondering why there isn't a representative from the corporation that's also signing this agreement. If you look at the last page, the only parties that are actually signing the
It's a
agreement
nonprofit.
is the city. Nonprofit corporation? Okay, corporation. I'm wondering why.
It's just an oversight. I caught it just
Okay.
right now. It's a draft.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we get that. If it's going to be a member of understanding, both should sign it. And is the corporation open to actually taking on the maintenance for this project?
We're gonna have to see.
Okay. So before we were told yes, now we're going to have to see. Okay.
Well, before,
So if I can,
no,
I
if I
gotta
could,
finish my
if I
time,
could,
thank you.
if I could.
I'm not
No, if I
asking-
could.
I'm not asking
Roman,
questions, sir.
let's let him say a couple words, and I'll give you a couple more minutes.
All right, a
okay?
couple, okay.
Yeah, there's some misconception. When we started this project, there was no quality of place bond. And then eventually that came into being. And when that happened, things changed. So sometimes you have to make course corrections. And I know you haven't been in business a long time, but you do have to think about things and just to get it done. We've got a group of people who are community-minded people who want to see this happen. And we're going to do whatever we can to make it happen.
Okay, thank you. I find it very interesting to see where we started off with this project and where we are now. To reiterate and give everybody a refresher, we had a resolution of support because we were told that that was needed by, and I assume if the positions are still correct, Mr. Anderson, you're still the chair, and Mr. Guerrero, you're still the vice chair. We were told by both individuals, I had a one-on-one meeting with one of you, and then you also spoke at city council meeting last year, probably in February, if I'm not mistaken, that it was just a resolution of support so that they could show their donors the city supported it, and they weren't going to ask for anything else. And I asked that question very specifically because I wanted it to be clear for the citizens. No monetary support at all. And then we get a request that comes in at the last minute for $2.2 million to help support this project through a funding through an existing park. And it is intentionally, I mean, they've all spoken in favor of it because they know it's going to support their project. I mean, that's why they want it. In a one-on-one meeting I had with the vice chair about this of the corporation was that they actually wanted the city to take on 100% liability for this entire project. They didn't want to take it on. That was going to be through the cities for not only the park, but for the entire project that they were going to incur because it was going to be on the park. And we had a Parks and Rec Advisory Board who went through the master plan for our parks and considered Granger McDonald Park as a potential improvement, and they saw it as not a priority for the city and for the city council to make those improvements. I respect the decision that that advisory board adopted in their master plan, and that the city council actually approved that entire master plan. We had to approve it after they adopted it. I respect that, and the chair, I believe former chair of that advisory board, came and spoke at almost every city council meeting when we were talking about the $2.2 million and urged us not to do this because it was clearly seen as not a priority in the community. If we're going to have advisory boards and ask people to volunteer on these boards and spend their time to come up with these suggestions for us, I think we ought to somehow find a way to respect that decision rather than countermand it and say, we're just going to scrap the whole portion of the plan that you created and we're going to do our own thing. To the chair and to the vice chair, respectively, you've told us one thing before. I assume my colleagues are going to approve this MOU. I really hope you hold true to your word this time and don't go back on that again. I'm going to support the decision that the advisory board adopted and that council adopted in that plan. This is something that's been coming out last minute, and in fact, you talk about it's going to save us money. Actually, we incurred $2.2 million of debt for the project. It's not saving us money. we're going into debt for it. So that's not true that it's saving the taxpayer dollars for this public-private partnership. I think that needs to be clear too. So I'll be voting against this. Thank you.
I have to say that this is not going into debt for us. This is coming from revenue money, and this is not going to cause us debt. This project is going to do things for our city that we are not aware of. It is going to be a wonderful public-private partnership. This MOU is just a way for us to get started. It fits the 2050 plan. I am pleased with everything that I have seen in here. This is going to be the start of a great relationship between the city and this group. And I think the council needs to support this. And what it's going to do for our city is, we have no idea yet. We're going to see it in the future, and I hope that we are positive here. Do we have any other comments?
Are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
I move we authorize the city manager to finalize and execute this MOU.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor, right hand. It is 4. Opposed? Mr. Garcia is again against. Thank you, council, very much. Good luck to you guys. We look forward to a great relationship. All right, we have one last 9A agenda item, and we have not spoken.
We have not spoken yet.
So, do we want to take a minute here and we'll confer?
We can. I'm happy to do it now, though.
Or would you like to, I have a name, do you have a name you would like to
I
bring up?
have a name. I have Jimmy Mullins as my recommendation to appoint to fill the vacancy on the Main Street Advisory Board.
Okay, my name will be different, so we could vote on both of them. Okay? All right?
So I'll make that motion first, and then we'll see if you make.
What was the name? I'm sorry.
Jimmy Mullins.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, can I tell them who?
Yeah, you need to ask for a second?
Yes, okay, let's get a second. Do we have a second? Okay, all right, I'm sorry. I will make a motion to appoint Delane Sigerman.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? And 4 are for.
Could you elaborate then on why Delane Sigerman and not Jimmy?
I feel that Delane, I have visited with her. She has lots of good ideas that she would like to bring about to this court, and has a very, very invested interest.
About it, 'cause I would say the same thing about her.
Yes, okay. But we have a motion on the floor, and I think we need to finish that. We need you to vote against.
I understand your opposition to Jimmy, so I understand probably where we
Oh,
are going on this vote.
well, I simply feel that Delane's interest overshadows Mr. Mullins. Ouch.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? Do you have, are you ready to vote?
Sure. You want me to-
Okay. In opposition, we have one. All right. Thank you very much. And it is 8:44. Before we do that, is there anything that anyone would like to put on the agenda for future councils? All right. At 8:44, we will adjourn the council meeting.